Hi, this is Suzanne from Market Net Worth, and today I have Aviva Chansky-Gutman, relationship therapist and safe conversation facilitator, helping people in businesses, organizations, and in personal relationships to have better connection. Hi, Aviva.
Hi, Suzanne.
So I would love to have a conversation with you about having safe conversations and safe spaces for businesses.
Great. I am a Safe Conversations facilitator as well as a Imago relationship therapist. My whole area of specialty is relationships and connection. And in business settings, the way that I utilize that skill set is to help partners or organizations or groups understand that a lot of the difficulty they may encounter has to do with them actively paying enough attention to what they're talking about with each other, how they're doing it, if they have an ultimate goal or project they're working on, how to really connect about what they're doing. So many people live in their own mental space that they're not really connecting very much. And a lot of that's been, of course, exacerbated by the COVID crisis and the social isolation and people having to stay apart. And they're doing a lot of things via Zoom and FaceTime Live, or Facebook Live. But none of that is actually the feeling of connection. It's the feeling of, I've got to be at that meeting, I've got to be at that session. So people are lacking that sense of, what do I do to feel connected or to fully understand the person I'm listening to?
Okay, great. So, what can a small business owner do now with, social distancing in their business to make it a safe environment for themselves and for their clients, where they can, have clients come in and still do business?
Well, I can only first say that the first model I'm seeing is about how people are deciding to start businesses that are in person. So if they're merchants, a lot of them have been mandated not to have anybody else in the building or store with them. So there's one person managing everything alone physically, maybe staying in contact with their coworkers or employees by telephone or social media. Now I've heard the first stage is that they're allowing a certain amount of staff to come into buildings. And first of all, people are going to be so excited to see each other. Just to have connection, to be in the same place. But of course, there's still the distancing that they're recommending, the masks, which put a barrier, even if we're doing it for all the very good reasons they say, it's putting a barrier on our facial expressions too. So actually, I think at this stage, if you have an in-person business where you're starting up again to see each other, there's going to be a lot of need to check in with people you're with, because you can't tell from their facial expressions what's going on with them emotionally or intentionally. My work in Safe Conversations facilitating is to help people fully listen to each other and to be aware of how they're presenting themselves to their partner or whoever they're speaking with. And that's going to be doubly necessary to be very conscious of that. Not only will you have to fully listen, but you'll have to fully check in. Let me see if I got that is a phrase we use in my type of work, where you're checking in to see if the person understood what you were saying, because you may have misinterpreted. So here we're going to have a second layer of that, where there's a mask and distance. Physically, you may not have heard correctly. You could not have seen what they were meaning emotionally in their face, which, by the way, is very much something we don't realize. Subconsciously, we recognize almost immediately from someone's facial expression their emotional intention. They don't even realize it sometimes. So that's the skill set that actually will have to be more practiced and refined if you want to have more effective connection with people you're with physically. As for staying distant, that's been a whole challenge in itself. It has, for many people, been easier because they enjoy that type of social distancing. They enjoy the electronic barrier. And for other people, it's been much harder because they find it an energy drain to talk on a electronic medium. And there's been whole kinds of articles about that why do we feel so drained after a Zoom call? And we feel so drained because we're, first of all, trying to look great for the camera if we can. We're trying to look like we're paying attention, which, by the way, is a skill set I try to teach people, but in a very positive way, not in a forced, I'm going to look like I'm paying attention. I'm trying to train them that they are actually learning how to pay attention so that they get the most out of what they're receiving. And also there's that feeling that by being in front of the Zoom call, you're on camera, plus you're performing instead of taking in information. So there's been a bunch of things I read about that lately, that the drain that many people feel is because they feel like they have to act. But in connecting for business, if you first realize you're giving and receiving in the conversations you're having on electronic media, and that you really just have to pay attention. Paying attention, again, is another skill set I help people with, because we have not been socialized to pay attention. We've been socialized to zone out, to tune out. A lot of it was for just coping or watching television, as many of us were raised on television. But now in the new world, we have to pay full attention because it's interactive as much as we can allow it to be. And in some cases for businesses, that's the only way that they're interacting is electronically. So I don't know if that totally answers your question, but those are some of the skill sets that I help people pay attention to.
That's great. So another thing that I want to talk to you about is how to stay motivated. You know, I'm hearing a lot of people they're just not motivated. They're just not, doing networking, whether it's Zoom or anything else. So how can someone do that?
Well, I think part of that has to do with that you no longer can feel right now like it's a social event. When I networked in person a lot on Long Island, it was very much a feeling of I'm getting out to do that. I'm so glad to see these people. I will interact and feel energized by the interaction part. And again, I think by the electronic means, it's very hard. You have to do like sort of an intentional feeling. I'm going to be socializing by being online with my networking peers. So much of it is about consciousness. Now, I know that's difficult for some people if they've never practiced any kind of intentional practice, but if you've had any type of meditation that you've done or yoga or anything where you've gone a little slower, you can apply those skill sets or how that felt to connecting online. And at least for the immediate future, many things will be online. They won't be in person. I myself find that a deprivation of sorts because I'm a very social, connecting person. And to only have the opportunity to do that through Zoom can feel both enriching when you're first excited to do it, but sometimes you can burn out. And the burning out part might be what's going on for a lot of people. Although there is the option now not to always be on camera. If the camera is the burnout issue, people can decide to have the camera not on. And you really are allowed to have that privilege of, you know what, I'm burnt out from the presentation of myself constantly. I just want my name to show, or I just want to hear it on the phone. I don't necessarily want to be in the meeting room visibly. Some people actually can't because they're driving or whatever. But again, about intention, taking something slower, realizing the benefit for now is as though you're in person, and eventually you will be back in person again, and that you can still get the networking benefit from being on an electronic call. But if you wait it out, as we're doing all over the state, opening up in phases, we'll be back together again.
So what can someone do for self-care afterwards? So if they are feeling drained after a Zoom meeting and after networking, even after doing some business where they are doing social distancing, where they are like maybe running their business by themselves, what can they do for self-care?
Well, it depends what self-care is for them. Many people have different variations of what self-care is. And also the time of day matters. If there's any ability for people to get out in the sunlight, it's just a known fact that having sunlight and vitamin D come into us through sunlight and also supplements does help with mood, elevation, and energy levels. Any type of exercise or movement a person can do, that's always a way to handle some burnout. Also taking yourself completely away from the activity that's burning you out mentally, whether it's reading a book that's very absorbing, watching a bunch of shows on television or binge watching, they call it. Anything that helps you feel that you are completely removing yourself from the stress, which was hard to do during the isolation and confinement. It was very hard to do, especially people living in congested areas. I know they had the most difficult times, that getting out was actually dangerous or considered dangerous. But anything you can do to get out in your mind, because that's the opposite of what you're doing. If you're paying intentional attention, focused a lot on what you're doing, trying very hard to be attentive or social online, you just need the opposite of that when you are offline so that you can feel recharged.
So what if you are alone? Let's say you don't have anybody to come home to after a long day. So how can you feel connected after being, alone, social distancing in your business, and now you're home alone at work? So how can you feel connected? What can you do, moving, forward where now, you're just feeling completely alone? What can you do?
Well, I have to say there's a whole percentage of people out there that will say, thank God I'm by myself. Some people really want that way to feel that I don't have to answer to, understand the energy of someone else, respond to it, be a caregiver. They feel liberated by the fact that there's no reason they have to attend to anyone at that moment besides self-care. So feeling connected, what's recommended at this time, not just by me, is unfortunately, it relates to Zoom right now if you are isolated, but family meetings, family parties. I've heard of family weddings or weddings online. I've actually attended, unfortunately, a funeral online. Ways of connecting that are still connecting, but unfortunately using what you have. So what we have at hand is the computer and the internet. We used to not have that. It would have been the phone. And some people are going back to actual letter writing, which I know I've seen some postings about isolated people in nursing homes because they actually can't have visitors, they can't get out. To write letters to them, a lot of them have no friends or families still around, or they're not in touch with them. And just things like something that you can do to reach out, or donating in some way, or even online donation to an organization. Or I myself have joined a call list of people that can call seniors if they're isolated and want someone to check in on them. It didn't involve me exposing myself to being in public. I didn't have to worry about social distancing. I checked in on the ones I was listed to call at a certain interval without having to worry about the other things, but still feeling connected.
No, that sounds great. So it's also helping somebody else, so you feel better about yourself as well. All right, great. So do you have anything, any tips that you want to give someone as a business owner yourself, with during this time that could help?
Well, I focus some of my downtime on just Googling around to see how I can increase my search engine optimization about how people find me. So for instance, on Google Ads, I was doing a lot of research on what search terms were helping just to find me. A lot of my business can be at this point in time online. In fact, all of it is for social distancing requirements. And I was able to really find search terms that will increase my searchability, plus joining sites by what I do related to what they do, or writing a post or a comment or a blog post or something on Instagram that just will help, that when things do loosen up out there, my name will come up, my business will come up more often. My primary work is couples counseling, relationship counseling, and safe conversations facilitation. I also do energy work, EFT, which is called tapping. So putting those terms out there with my name in any type of way that it rotates, that's actually been a little bit of a hobby on downtime to help myself in the future.
So for a business owner, for them to just moving their business forward also helps them as well, so they feel productive.
Yeah, they're actually doing things without really feeling they are. If they feel like they're just Googling it around, they can Google around for something that might help them.
All right, great. Aviva, thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate your advice, expertise. I do miss you. We used to network all the time, but Aviva, she moved away. So thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you very much.
Well, I didn't move that far away. I'm about 2.5 hours from you. And I miss my networking friends very much. And they're welcome to stay in touch. I'd love that too. And I appreciate this opportunity to talk a little bit about my work in Safe Conversations and Imago relationship therapy.
Thank you, Aviva.
Thank you.